going to go ahead and get started this morning. We have a fairly tight schedule today, and again, want to make sure we get you guys out on time. So I really appreciate everybody getting here on time. This morning, we're going to start with a focus on Williamson County Schools best practices. And to lead us off this morning, we have Karen Comfort and Wendy Castillo. And before I formally introduce them, I want to let you know they did a lot of work towards preparing for this conference. They were both on the conference planning committee. And they also did a lot of work with the students that you're going to see at the end of the day today in their presentation. So I really want to give them an extra thanks for all that they've done in addition to preparing this presentation for you this morning. So thank you so much for all of your work. So I'll introduce Karen. Karen received her MSSW from UT at Austin, has been practicing social work for 16 years in the Austin community. She's worked for the Round Rock ISD Teen Parent Program for the past 13 years as a teen parent coordinator, providing services to pregnant and parenting students. And she also maintains a small private practice providing therapy services to children and adolescents in foster care. Wendy Castillo received her MSSW from the University of Texas at Austin and has been a social worker in this community for the past 6 years. She joined the Round Rock ISD Teen Parent Program in 2008 as a teen parent coordinator providing services to pregnant and parenting students. Her passion is working with at-risk youth and their families, and she has a great interest in addressing cultural and linguistic barriers to services. She also does PRN medical social work at a local hospital. Please join me this morning in welcoming Karen and Wendy.
Thanks, Matt.
Good morning. Buenos dias. How is everybody today? Good. Thanks for coming back. Second day, number 2. Like Matt said, my name is Wendy Castillo, and this is Karen Comfort. We're licensed social workers with the Round Rock Teen Parent Program. Karen and I are the teen parent coordinators, and we cover the whole district. Serving pregnant and parenting teens. Our program is a dropout prevention program, so we coordinate with other dropout prevention teams on Round Rock ISD campuses. So today we're going to cover a little bit of what our program services are, give you a little overview of students we serve. We're going to give some examples. Hopefully we can get some feedback from you all while we're doing this, as well as probably our more exciting presentation, as Matt said. Our students will be presenting later this afternoon on their service learning project. So hopefully you can come back and stay for, I think it's around 2 o'clock. So we kind of wanted to get an idea who's in the audience. So can you raise your hand, I guess, principals? Yay.
Counselors? Okay.
Social workers?
Yay. Teachers?
Probation?
School administrators. Okay.
Nurses?
Nurses, yeah.
I did say there was nurses.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay. Anybody else that we
Who
missed?
So we got everybody?
Okay. Okay. Well, how many of you have teen parent programs in your districts? Okay, so a few. Okay, well, looks like we have a range of roles of people who are working with teen parents. We wanted to start the day off with a story, with Ashley's story, to kind of begin to tell you how we address some of these needs. So Ashley is a 17-year-old mother of a 5-week-old baby boy. She's a sophomore in high school and is entering her last week of homebound instruction. She's been very tearful lately and is nervous about leaving her baby and returning to campus. She feels very behind in school and struggles with shame related to judgment by her peers. Ashley's mother is planning to work the night shift and then be home in time to watch the baby while Ashley's at school when she returns next week. Ashley's boyfriend has been controlling and has become physically aggressive with her when they've had disagreements. He has dropped out of school, doesn't have a job, and has not contributed to the financial cost of raising their son, which has been very stressful for Ashley.
Okay. So first, we want to start off, usually we do an assessment. So we want to see what we're working with. So what are Ashley's strengths? Strengths? Yay. What else? Parent support. Anything else?
She's reported that her boyfriend is very aggressive.
Okay. So she's reaching out. Reaching out. What they are?
That she's still in school, she has parent support, and she's reached out. Any other strengths you see? No? Okay. We've got a few to share. Y'all have named a few.
Okay. So these are some additional ones that we also saw. So she's in school. She's still connected. She has support of her mom. And father of the baby is still involved. So that's good. So she still has some support at home. She's bonding with her baby. So research shows that bonding and attachment with babies are a good thing. It lowers the risk of child abuse and neglect. Mom is employed, so she has access to resources, so that's definitely a good thing. And she's participating in homebound services, so she's still willing to catch up on her work, do some credit recovery. We still have some connections, so that's definitely good, and we're starting off at a good place with her. So now let's assess what are her needs. What do you all think are her needs in order to find her resources?
Parenting education.
Parenting education? Okay.
I need some information on personal safety. How to protect yourself.
So with the boyfriend.
Support when she gets to school.
Support.
Behavior.
Okay, take care.
Non-family member support.
Okay.
Other support?
Like a mentor? So when she doesn't have someone home, she
Okay.
So I think we're all on the right track. So we identified some of these needs as well. So postpartum depression assessment. So when she's on homebound, definitely saying that she has the needs. Postpartum depression, do we need to connect her with any other services? And we'll talk a little bit more about that. Counseling, so having someone at school, accessible teen parent program, credit recovery to make up some of the stuff that she's fallen behind on credits. Somebody said a safe school, somewhere she can come back, she's welcomed, feels unconditionally that she's going to be accepted back. Support group, child care, someone said that in the back. Referral to domestic violence services, child support, community referral. So there's definitely a lot of needs there that we're going to start with, a mentoring program that we'll talk about a little bit.
Okay. Okay, so as we approach cases, we do these assessments of strengths and needs, and then we figure out how we're going to address those with interventions related to the services that we provide. These are the 5 components of our program through which we view cases and provide intervention: social work services, health services, homebound instruction, child care, and parenting education. We're going to talk a little bit about each of those. Do you want me to take that? Okay, so social work services. The first service that we've listed here is crisis intervention. Our goal with that is to stabilize the situation. We want to help the family have the coping strategies that they need, and the student to have the coping strategies that she needs in order to navigate the situation. Many times this is around the initial revelation of the pregnancy. Sometimes it's family conflict. Sometimes it's loss of housing or something subsequent that happens in the case. So that is the first. And then individual counseling. A lot of times we have students come to us that already have pre-existing mental health needs. They may have already been struggling in relationships or with depression. So we work in individual counseling on relationship and communication issues, depression, postpartum depression. We know that if students have a history of depression, they're at higher risk for postpartum depression. So we always want to be watching for that and addressing those needs as they come along. Many of our students have histories of trauma, histories of abuse and neglect that they may have never processed before. And so we may be their first opportunity to work through some of those issues. Grief and loss. Of course, there may be issues that come along, just in daily life, But in particular, we deal with grief and loss around students who have miscarriages and even students who have chosen to terminate their pregnancies. We'll work with them for as long as they need in order to process any grief and loss issues related to that. And then, of course, in our strength-based approach, we're focusing on self-esteem and school motivation and helping them have the positive feelings around all of those things in order to be successful. Then we have family counseling. We view teen pregnancy as a family issue. It's not just an issue for the student, it's an issue for the entire family. And we want to bring the family in and help them be supports to our student. So we make lots of efforts to reach out to families and make them a part of the process and offer support to them also. We have psychoeducational parenting groups. So our groups, the purpose is twofold. One, that there's an educational component where we provide parent education, and also the second is the process component where we're offering peer support or facilitating peer support and offering support and opportunities for them to process and explore their thoughts and opinions related to parenting and any struggles related to parenting, the challenges of parenting while still in school. We provide case management where we monitor grades and attendance. We consult with teachers and counselors basically to figure out what support students may need and make sure that they're getting those in the school. We're maintaining connections to school. We do that through our homebound services. Really, we're looking at that anytime there is a break away from school. Summer's a big time for that. So during the summer, Wendy and I will do home visits with our kids. We'll visit summer school and check in with kids. We try to have an event each summer. This last summer, we had a pool party where the students came with their babies. Just a time of connection to keep them linked up to school and having a positive experience and wanting to come back. And then, of course, we provide lots and lots of referrals to community resources that our students need. And we'll talk more about those in a little bit.
Health services. Our health services are primarily provided by our nurses. So our nurses on our campuses are the ones that are actually seeing the students. They usually are the ones that are giving us the referrals because they're seeing them through their first pregnancy symptoms at the beginning or even second trimester. So they're the ones giving us referrals. They're coming down to them and hoping that they provide support as well as accommodations for our students. Some of those accommodations might be getting an elevator key towards the third trimester, maybe getting out of class 5 minutes before class so they don't get bumped while passing periods, as well as maybe coming down, putting their feet up, getting snacks. So something to accommodate them. We prefer and we think it's really important for these accommodations because we're still seeing them at school. So as long as they're coming back to school and then they're not staying at home, because the longer they stay at home, the harder it is for us to get them back. So any accommodations so they can feel comfortable and still come to school. Usually the nurses help us with those accommodations. They also provide, like for Ashley, she's coming back to school. If she's breastfeeding, they provide a private space so that she can pump and store her milk and provide some breastfeeding support through the nurses. We also connect our students to prenatal care, such as Lone Star Circle of Care, where they do prenatal care. They actually help us with pregnancy verification. Some of our students still don't know, if they're pregnant, so they may provide CAB vouchers, get them in within 24 hours, so start the prenatal care. As well as once they're there, they can assess for needing Medicaid or CHIP or other things like that, as well as even mental health service, behavioral services, and even after they deliver, they connect them with pediatric care. So those are some of the health services and community partners that we've had.
Okay, homebound instruction. Most of y'all are probably familiar with homebound instruction. For our students, they are eligible for homebound for 6 weeks from the date they deliver their baby. If there's a medical complication that makes it dangerous to the student's health or the unborn child's health for the student to be coming to school on campus, then we can provide homebound prior to delivery. We definitely view this period as one of our highest risk periods for students to drop out of school. So we are providing lots and lots of encouragement during that time like Ashley, in Ashley's story, she was feeling tearful. She was feeling behind in school. She didn't want to leave her baby. That's the story of almost every student we serve. And so it's very, very hard for them to come back to school often. And so we're definitely looking at those risks and at that period as a critical time for intervention. Our homebound teacher helps with the transition back to school. She'll help facilitate the registration at the child care center, help prep the teachers for where the student is with things emotionally and academically, and help facilitate that transition back to school, help the teachers know what that student might be needing. Our students really need to feel welcomed back, not like, oh, you haven't done all your work, you know, welcome. You know, I mean, they need to feel like the teacher's glad to see them. And then as the social workers, we do postpartum home visits. During those visits, one of the main purposes is really just to provide encouragement, to point out the strengths we see and how the student is parenting their child, and just kind of help them feel positive about their experiences. We're also doing postpartum depression screenings, which we do through clinical observation and also the Edinburgh Postpartum Depression Scale. And we're also assessing for bonding and attachment. We know that the research shows that bonding attachment is critical to the mental health of the child, as well as a solid child abuse prevention effort.
So I know we identified in Ashley that one of her needs was childcare. So that's true. Our students need childcare in order for them to come back so that we can continue to connect them to services. We have 2 childcare centers in our district. They're on each side of the district, the east and the west side of the district, so that all high schools and middle schools, if needed, have access to childcare. And it's free as long as they're enrolled in Round Rock ISD. And we provide transportation to our students. So they are picked up in front of their house, taken to daycare, and then to school, and then back from school to daycare, and then back to their house. They actually they don't have to worry about childcare seats. Car seats. They're already on the bus provided, so they just grab all their stuff and they get on the bus. Karen mentioned earlier about doing home summer visits. It's really important for us to keep those connections, as well as we have summer childcare for students that have to retest for tax, for STAR testing, as well as catch up on credits so they can graduate. So we have childcare for those students that are needed during the summer. Our child care centers are Rising Star designation through the Texas Workforce Commission, which is one way of allocating more money for our daycares. And through the Texas Workforce Commission, there's CCMS. CCMS is Child Care Management Services, where it's a subsidy, child care for low-income families. So our students can actually apply, and they actually have a priority on those on that child care. So they can apply, and if they qualify, they can use our child care center, still get it for free, but then it brings in funding for our centers, or they can choose to use another center in the community. The awesome part about CCMS is if you have it in high school, you can take it with you once you graduate. So we really encourage our students to apply, get it before they graduate, because once they graduate, then they get on the list with every other low-income family. Mm-hmm. And then another way we bring in additional funding is through teacher spots. So teachers can use our daycare through a tuition-based funding.
Okay, parent education. We do a teen parenting group twice a month where we focus on lots of different parenting issues. And we may have, it may be, one week it might look like a discussion about a parenting topic. Another week we might watch a parenting video and discuss it. We might have a guest speaker. We do a variety of different things to do the parenting ed component in group. We do individual sessions with students, which those are neat because we can tailor those to the developmental stage of that student's particular baby and talk about any particular challenges that that student might be having in parenting. We also have our Teen Parent Seminar, which is it's an annual event that we have at the Round Rock Higher Education Center, where students attend workshops throughout the day on parenting issues, independent living issues. They get lots of college and career information. We have a resource fair where community agencies come and bring information about services they have that can be helpful to young parents. And we have lunch there, door prizes. It's a really fun day. It's definitely a favorite event of our students each year. And then we also do referrals to parenting classes in the community, and we have a lending library with books on pregnancy, parenting, breastfeeding, lots of self-improvement topics that students are welcome to check books out of from any time.
Sorry, I want to go back. Those are actually our babies from the daycare. So I just wanted to point that out.
Okay, and so these are some of the topics that we cover in our group. And just to highlight a few, healthy relationships is a big one. The students really enjoy that topic. We have many students, and we've seen a great increase in the number of students that are dealing with dating violence and domestic violence situations. So we definitely want to provide an opportunity for them to learn about what a healthy relationship looks like. And so that's an important topic that we cover. Topics like baby sign language, huge child abuse prevention tool. Research shows that the ability to communicate with their babies lowers frustration rates and lowers the incidence of child abuse. So that's an important one. And then things like even like stress management. You know, our students have daily stress anyway as a teen and as a student. And then when they're catapulted into a stage of development that they are likely not ready for, that increases the stress as they're trying to manage parenting and school at the same time. So we address those also.
So those are our bigger components of our program. But as I know Dr. Pakel, I hope I said that right, he said yesterday how it's important to build partnerships and relationships with our students. It's actually also important to build those relationships with our community. So a lot of the stuff that we have in our program we couldn't do without our partnerships. Our big partner that we work with is the UT School of Social Work. Karen and I are field instructors, so we supervise master level interns, and so we get interns for free. So they come and they're with us about 16 to 20 hours a week for the whole school year. So it's especially ideal for a school-based program, and they're able to carry anywhere from 6 to 8 students, roughly about a caseload, about 6 to 8 students a year. So that's a huge help. They run groups and they see students individually. Lone Star Circle of Care is another partner. They provide, like I said, pregnancy testing, CAB vouchers. Just connecting our students with that health care is really important. Young Lives is one of, it's a mentoring program, so they connect our teen moms with mentors in the community. They actually have different events, but they have a really neat summer program where they take the girls off with their children to camp, and they spend the whole week doing camp activities, which is really awesome for them to take the students, and the students go for free.
They're always looking for volunteers, too.
Yes. Agape Crisis Pregnancy Center is another resource. They provide free pregnancy testing in the community, so a lot of the students will go there because they can access it. They also provide labor and delivery classes, parenting classes. They have counseling on site, so if a student is having a crisis and they go there, they do have that counseling for them. So they're a really good resource in our community. We actually have been able to have 2 baby closets in the district, and the baby closet is actually all donations from the community and from staff within our Roanoke ISD. So we have baby clothes, we have maternity clothes, we have baby equipment, and all that is from just donations. And we have an advisory team. The advisory team is put together by community members as well as district staff, and we really use them, or we collaborate to get input not only on networking, but as well as our policy and procedures. So we're changing things around throughout the, making our program better. We definitely rely on our advisory team to give us input. So we wanted to show you how many students we've served in the last 5 years. As you can see, last year we served 51 pregnant students. And then we served 120 pregnant and parenting students, which includes teen dads. And then we have an average of 94 completion rate. So now let's go back to Ashley's needs. Look how many of those are actually mental health needs. So we couldn't really have 94% completion rate if we couldn't address her mental health needs through our program. So it's really important that we have access to Ashley and be able to address her mental health needs.
Yeah. So that's the information on our program. We want to give some time to answer any of your questions. So we'll open it up for questions now.
What do you do with the fathers?
Great question. Yes, so we work to identify the dads when they're on our campuses, and when they join the program, we offer them the individual counseling. They participate in our groups, and we help them with resources as well.
So I just wanted to make sure, her question was what we do with the dads, just in case you didn't hear that.
Is it common for the dads to be involved, or do they just want no part of it?
You know, I think the last couple of years we've had more teen dad involvement. Sometimes it's not that they don't want to participate, it's that we don't have access to them. Some of them have already graduated or they're not within our school district. So as long as they're within our school district, on any campus, we will provide services to them. So if they're on campus, most of the time they've wanted to participate.
Yeah.
Might take them a little while, but they want
We
to.
have some very involved dads. You're going to hear from one of them this afternoon.
What percentage of the dads want to be involved?
I don't know that off the top of my head, the percentage. Well, the ones that we identify that want to be involved, I'd say 100% on my side of the district for sure.
And we didn't mention it earlier, but all of our programs are voluntarily. So they can participate in as many or as little as they want to. Most of them choose to come. They start coming to groups, they use the daycare, they come to individual. So, and that includes our teen dads usually want to participate.
Right.
What do you think the decline, or some reasons for the decline? That was a pretty sharp decline from when y'all first started to this last year. Have y'all had any insight on that?
The $1,000,000 question. Why have our numbers gone down? So, so first of all, we want to say we are not the intervention component of, we are not the prevention component of our district. We are the intervention component. So, I mean, my honest answer is I'm not quite sure. Our district is in the process of trying to go from abstinence only to abstinence plus, which we support. But our numbers are going down without it. So,
and that's nationally. That's nationally that the numbers are going down.
Right.
Which is a good problem to have.
I know with our student, we're seeing subsequent pregnancy numbers going down, and we would like to think that that's a lot of our effort in providing sexual education to our students and information about contraception and ways to prevent subsequent pregnancies or to delay them.
Do you offer that service as well through your services like postpartum, birth control, and things like that for them?
So your question was, do we provide sex education to delay? Is that correct? Postpartum.
Well, when students come back from homebound and I have a first session with them, that's one of the things that we'll always discuss. So I'll ask them about their postpartum visit with their OB-GYN. And so what did y'all discuss about birth control? And so we'll have that conversation. We also, with our students, I mean, we'll do a group on contraception. We talk individually with students as they have questions. So we're always a resource and find that the students come to us pretty openly and honestly about their needs in that area.
We have a little box that it's anonymous group topics. And so we'll look in there and it says, please talk about contraceptives, so birth control. So we try to have this anonymous box and then we go through it. So it's most likely that we'll hear through those means, and so we'll go ahead and cover topics.
How do y'all get the word out of the availability of your services?
We actually,
go ahead.
So her question was, how do we get the word out of our availability of our program? Our referral process, first of all, is very simple. Usually you can catch one of us on campus or you can email us. So usually we try to present at the beginning of the school year to staff on our services. We are up on the website as well. And usually sometimes our referral process is through the students. So they'll bring somebody in. We want to add to that.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. So.
I have a question about funding for this.
I knew that one would come up.
Because in Georgetown, I worked at Georgetown High School, and every child, or children, that is either pregnant or going to deliver, the main thing they're worried about is daycare. Well, Head Start is completely full all the way through summer. And then the CCMS parents process, I can't even go there. But, so where do you get funding for this? Because if they had daycare, we wouldn't have all these girls that come to school.
Right, exactly. So funding for our program, first of all, our positions are funded through state compensatory funding. Our operating budget, as well as the daycare budget, that is funded through local funds in our school district. Now, we subsidize that with tuition for teachers who use our child care center. So that funds part of it. We have some girls, but not a lot, that are on CCMS because CCMS limits us to 5 spots per center. So that doesn't cover all the needs. But with one of the things with the CCMS, we have the Rising Star designation. So with the Rising Star designation, there's money attached to that. So you can get money for equipment and things like that. But really, I mean, we're pretty blessed in our district with support for our child care and for removing any barriers for all students to be able to attend school. So.
And we can relate on the CCMS. The
Yeah.
application with CCMS that we're relating to is really difficult for even an adult to go through it. They just have so many hoops to go through, and it gets a little bit complicated. I mean, we still encourage our girls and we still help them through the process, but it can be really difficult to obtain. Yeah.
Okay.
Was your completion rate, was that of who graduates?
It's an average of who graduates.
Well, of students who either graduate or continue on in school. So. Okay, we have a couple more minutes. Oh.
Can you get the word out in the district to administrative meetings, counseling meetings, and so the outreach is there for them. The avenues are there, they're well received in the district, so we know the services, so we have to make a referral, that and it's convenient on both sides of the district.
Thank you. It's our audience plan. Thank you, Albert.
And Karen and I cover the whole district. So if you're looking for resources, if you have a social worker in your district to have them supervise interns, you can get interns, and they can, you obviously have to supervise them, but they do awesome work with students, and students can really relate to them because they're younger.
Right. The campuses that have interns, the administration of those campuses they're very thankful that we're able to bring in those extra resources at no additional cost to the district, because it really does help support the students on their campuses.
I mean, also, we're very collaborative with the special ed when we have a student and such. That's right. And we always get insight from them and work closely with them as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Plug number 2.
Yes.
I think you should consider that for the video purposes because it is amazing the level of collaboration that you do, not just with the school, but with the communities. I also wanted to point out that with that intern program that Karen was voted as the, you stated for me, the supervisor of the year.
Field instructor of the year.
Field instructor of the year.
So, thank you. Thank you. So any last questions? I think our time is just about up. No? Okay. Well, thank you for being here with us. If you have any other questions, our contact information is on the PowerPoint.
So our next best practices in Williamson County Schools presentation this morning will be presented by Mary Ann Kluge. And I just want to say personally, I heard Mary Ann's name over and over and over again, and all the great work she was doing out in Leander. Our Cedar Park probation supervisor kept telling me, wow, she's just incredible, and I heard from a lot of other people, and I finally just last month had the chance to meet her, and so I think this will be a fabulous presentation for you today to see what she has done and what Leander ISD is doing with substance abuse prevention. So I'll tell you a little bit more about Mary Ann. She's been working in the mental health and chemical dependency fields for almost 29 years. And she's worked in a VA hospital, a private psychiatric hospital, an inpatient treatment center, the Council on Alcohol and Drugs, and has been with Leander now for over 10 years in her position as a substance abuse prevention coordinator. She's presently in graduate school online with the University of Oklahoma. We'll forgive you for that. And will be graduated next May with a master's in prevention science. When not working or studying, she enjoys photography, knitting, reading, and being outdoors, doing just about anything. So please help me in welcoming Mary Ann Cluden.
Morning. Boy, I'm really impressed with Round Rock and your program, Wendy and Karen. Awesome. Okay, best practices. Lots of good things. I'm going to flip through the first couple of slides because it's basic information. I put that in there more just for your information, and then I'm going to get down to what we're really doing, and I'm going to see where I need to point this to do this. Oh, we'll see. Anyway, well, we know that substance use is the #1 public health problem for our adolescents nationwide. So it's not just a problem in Leander ISD, Round Rock ISD, Georgetown ISD, Gerald, Taylor, anyone. We know that it's nationwide. And as Sue likes to say, drugs dumb us down. And so a lot of times kids will say, well, so-and-so is using, and they're okay. Well, maybe they have more brain cells to burn than you do, sweetheart. So, beware. In there. And we also know, of course, that addiction happens more rapidly for youth than it does for adults. So we want to get in there and prevent the onset of use. So the Chemical Abuse Prevention Program our purpose is to promote wellness and a drug-free lifestyle in Leander ISD students. We know that if we establish some of those healthy behaviors young, it's going to help a lot more down the road than trying to undo the unhealthy behaviors later. And a big thing with research is showing that as students see an increased perception of risk, their drug use goes down. Now that's really great because we give a lot of information for our elementary students, and we see they're really scared of things and thinking that drugs and all are bad. Good percentage, 70 to 80% of the students. But then when you get into secondary schools, that goes down to about 50%. So I'll talk about what we do for that in a minute. Just so you know, this already, prevention and intervention are key. I always like to talk about caffeine and tobacco. How many of us already went to Starbucks this morning for that jolt, Pills are really becoming popular. I'll talk about that when we look at drug trends later. We really like to focus on the fact that addiction happens in that social context with teens. They're with friends, doing things together. So we're going to address that in the interventions. And what we want to do is delay the onset of use. The longer we can push it off, the better, is what research is showing us. I'm just going to give you some data. We know that drug use increases as age increases. So you have that just as an example for your own needs assessment, that you might want to be identifying any issues in your district. More of that. And then in Leander, it started about 25, 26 years ago. Nobody has the exact date. But the community was concerned that there was a drug problem. And so a bunch of people got together, law enforcement, teachers, parents, faith-based community, principals, administrators, and said, what do we need to do? Surveyed the students at the schools to see what the problem was. And then we did a community needs assessment. And it was really kind of interesting because the students started a drug-free club in Leander High School, the one high school back then, and they wanted to be drug tested. They said, we want to prove to the community and our peers that we're not using drugs. So they started our drug testing program. The nurse at Leander High School administrated it. This is about 23 years ago. And then after the committee continued with the community needs assessment, our voluntary random drug testing program was started in '98. So chemical abuse prevention program started back plus or minus 1995. One counselor. We didn't have that many schools back then. We presently serve over 37,000 students. We've tripled in the numbers of students in the 10 years that I've been there, and we have stayed with the same 4 staff for these past 10 years. So that's one of our challenges that I'll discuss a little bit more in detail later. And we get help from all sorts of folks in the district and in the community, and I'll talk about collaboration too. Y'all know about risk and protective factors, so this isn't anything new. Again, this is where we kind of look at how we are going to use prevention principles and enhance those protective factors and work to decrease the risk factors as well. Georgetown Project, big on Search Institute and 40 developmental assets, so are we. Our prevention framework is using the 40 developmental assets. More on that later too. Okay, so what do we do? So I told you we have 3 counselors and me as a coordinator, and what I do is I run our drug testing program. I see our students who are placed at our Opportunity Center for a drug or alcohol related offense and do a substance abuse assessment, do a lot of collaboration with the community, a lot of education on our 10 ethical principles, our bullying prevention program as well. My 3 counselors, the rest of the team, they are actually out at our campuses doing our K-12 health education by TEACs, individual and group counseling for students either who are affected by somebody else's drug or alcohol use or their own. One of my counselors goes to our Opportunity Center and she screens every student who goes through LEO for drugs and alcohol. And then we look at that and we see if there's an issue, and then we contact parents and say, you might want to use our services. You know, we don't want to break confidentiality for the students, yet there might be a little bit more of a problem than you think, because a lot of parents are like, oh, this is their first time. I'm like, no, it's not. Good try though. They're so naive, bless your hearts, you know. We want to believe our kids, you know, but they lie. Imagine that. Just a little, you know. So I do a lot of education with parents as well. So they get the screening, then we do substance abuse assessment, more on that in a second. More on voluntary random drug testing. We also offered the 8-hour state-mandated tobacco awareness classes for the students who get caught with tobacco or tobacco-related products, and then lots and lots of education. So more specifically, so we use a multi-pronged approach, and in your packets you have this cool little thing from NIDA about preventing drug use with adolescents and drugs. So we use the principles, the 16 principles there, and that's the basis of our program. So we try to incorporate everything around the whole prevention idea, enhancing protective factors, decreasing risk factors, addressing whatever the drug problems are in the district. So we do a community needs assessment, and we do our own needs assessment every year in our department. So we're always looking at what is going on. There's family component in prevention principles, community component in it, what's going on with elementary, where you need to focus, middle school, high school, where you need to focus, all of that. So it really kind of guides us. And it makes it easy because NIDA has done this. They've done all the research. They know what works. So we use research-based interventions throughout. So in health education, we were finding that sometimes the health ed was not getting done in our health and PE classes, and so we offered to go back and create a program and do that, K-5. And what we did was we found research-based videos, and so we have 2 classes, one in the fall and one in the spring, with all of our elementary students in their health or PE classes. And in your packets, I listed down all of the videos that we use, so you could have that as a reference, and I think that's one of the last pages of the PowerPoint. But so you don't have to search that out. There are not many videos for the little guys. And that's the real struggle for it. And that's where we're focusing more on safety and, you know, who are you taking medications from and that kind of thing. And a lot of parents really don't want us to be teaching their students, their kids, at that young age. But then when we talk to them about safety, and you know, they're hearing about it, so we want to educate them. And so that sometimes helps. We take the videos, we only have a certain amount of copies, so my counselors get to run around to the different schools to pass them out, but the parents can preview the videos. And on our website, we even have a little description of what the videos are, as well as some follow-up questions that the parents can use to get that discussion going with their child as well. And so we encourage the schools to let them know when that education is going to be happening, so they can go to the website and, you know, follow up with that. Let's see. Okay. We also use our Texas A&M School Survey of Drug and Alcohol Use that we've been doing it since 1988. We did it, then we started it back again in 1998 and have been doing it for every 2 years since then. We take that data and our 5th grade pre and post-test information that we do with our students in the health ed classes to see what do we need to change every year. So we're constantly looking at what's going on, what are the trends, what do kids know. We were seeing increased numbers on the inhalants with our student 5th grade pre-post tests, and what we started to see was the kids were thinking that their inhaler for asthma was an inhalant. And so we kind of looked at that, okay, we need to explain that a little bit further with them as well. So it's really interesting what comes up when you're looking at all the data that you collect. Then we also go ahead and do education in grades 6 to 12. We try to hit about 50% of the students in the secondary education piece. We do bring people from the outside. Life Steps has helped us out a little bit. Some other coalitions in the area have helped us out some as well, in doing some of that education so that we can continue on with what we're doing and reach as many students as possible. One of the barriers, and I'll just bring this up while I'm thinking about it because I may not in a minute, is that now see, it just went out of my head. Menopausal moment. I'll talk about it when I'm supposed to later. That's what that's telling me. Never mind. So we do these educational classes in a wide variety of the 6th to 12th grade classes. A lot of health classes ask us to come in, leadership, language arts. We've gone into science classes. We've gone into debate. There's a wide variety of that. And later in the presentation, I'll show you how you can attach to just about any subject, alcohol and drug use information. A couple other things. I was mentioning that we do a screening with our Leo students. We use the tool that's called CRAFT screening, and I have where we got that, and you can use that. It's available to anybody, and it just helps us to see what's going on. It asks questions about what they've been using, if they've been in a car with somebody who's been using, if they thought they've used too much, and then you score it, and then my counselor sits down with the student and talks about it to say, do you think you might have a little issue here or not? And very non-threatening, just kind of, let's just kind of talk about it and identify what is going on. And then after that, oftentimes parents will call me and say, hey, my kid's got a problem. I said, well, let's sit down. So we do about a 2-hour appointment. Recently, it's been more like 4 hours with these assessments. I don't know about you guys, but the students are having a lot more problems. And I don't know what it is this year, but it started really early. I feel like, we started the sprint for the school year, before school even started. We're seeing a lot of mental health issues, of course, as well as the substance abuse, as well as different substances are going on. Xanax has gotten really popular again, or still. Hash oil has come back in. Mollies are up there, and it's just amazing. And I was in the expulsion hearing yesterday where someone's car was searched, and you would be so surprised at how much stuff was in this car. But he's not a drug dealer. But I don't know about, a whole bunch of hydrocodone and a whole bunch of marijuana all packaged already, kind of looked like a problem to me. So in the substance abuse assessment, I do a psychosocial assessment, and what I'm looking for is to see where the student might fall on a continuum of drug and alcohol addiction. So are they experimenting? Are they socially or recreationally using? Are they abusing already, or are they dependent? And we want to look at that, and this is what I tell them and their parents, because we know that youth can become addicted in as little as 0 days, first use. Generally, it doesn't happen that often there. Usually it's 6 months to 2 years. Whereas an adult who starts drinking at age 21, if they're going to become addicted, and we know not everybody who drinks becomes an alcoholic, but if they are, everything kind of comes together, then it's about a 10-year process for the disease to come to fruition. And so I do a lot of education with the parents and the student to say, why do you think that is, that it's a shorter time frame for you? I don't know. Okay, good. Hey, it's this thing inside of our hard head called our brain, Drugs and alcohol affect it more rapidly towards addiction with you as youth than it does with adults. And still, starting at 21, they're not adults. Do a lot of education on, our good old prefrontal cortex not being developed to mid to late 20s, and what that means, poor impulse control, poor self-discipline, poor planning, organizing, setting goals, critical rational thinking. So I'll say to the kids, what were you thinking when you did such and such? I wasn't. You're right, you weren't. That part of your brain wasn't on. And so that education piece really helps a lot. And that's part of why those assessments recently, they've just been more difficult. A lot of family things going on with siblings as well as the students. So I shoot for 2 hours. Sometimes it's longer. And it's amazing. The parents still want to keep talking. I'm like, I have another appointment, you know. But it's a good way of really ascertaining if there's a problem. And of course, I use a SASI, Substance Abuse Subtle Screening Inventory, as my objective tool. So it's not just Ms. Kluge saying that you might have a problem. You know, the SASI indicates either low probability of substance abuse or dependence or high probability. And usually the students see themselves at least one stage below what the SASI indicates. So sometimes they agree with it and sometimes they disagree. Individual counseling with our counselors. We get on average about 250 referrals a year. I think it's going to be much more than that this year between the 4 of us. And we put the students in individual or group counseling sessions, and the counselors see them weekly or bi-weekly to support them. Sometimes it's very short solution-based counseling, and other times it's a year, 2 years that we stay with the kiddos. We use Rainbow Days as our curriculum-based support group. It's a research-based curriculum. It's 10 sessions. It's all about skill building, self-esteem, communication, resistance skills, conflict resolution, and all that. They have a program for elementary as well as secondary. And their training is like $10 for training, and then you get the curriculum. It's awesome. So if you hear about it and you need to do curriculum-based support groups, I'd encourage that route. A couple other things in our program. I mentioned the voluntary random drug testing program. We use saliva swabs for testing, and we test for marijuana, opiates, benzodiazepine, amphetamine, cocaine, and ecstasy. Saliva is almost as accurate as urine, but not quite. Yet when you have 14 secondary campuses that I'm testing at, the urine tests were becoming problematic because the students would have just gone to the bathroom on the way down, and we're pouring water in them, and then you're waiting for 2 hours. Well, that kind of blows my schedule for that. But we weren't able to reach as many students. There were a lot of questions about privacy and all that, so we really investigated the saliva swabs, and that's what we've been doing for the past, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years in there, and it is effective as well. We also have a family or student request portion of the program where a family member or the student can call or email me and request testing the next time I'm at their campus. I set up a schedule for the year with testing, and then that way I know where I'm going, and I reserve the rooms and all that kind of thing, bring the drug testing company in. I send the names of the students to the drug testing company and say I need this many names at these campuses, and the computer generates a list to make it random. Sometimes the parents will call and say, can you go and test my student today? No, sorry. No, that's not how our program runs. We set it up as the next time I am there, but then I refer them out into the community to get testing as well. Just one example of a program in the district is our athletic program. In their handbook, they talk about if the student is caught with drugs or alcohol, what has to happen. The first offense, or what is written up here, they get an assessment with me, then they get some education with one of my team. They have to do 30 hours of community service. They miss their sport for a certain period of time and practice, and then they have to get a drug test and have a negative result. And that's just what the athletic department has said, so we follow up with that. And then there's more stringent requirements if they get in trouble again. And what a lot of the coaches in Leander do is even if the student gets in trouble over the summer or spring break or on the weekends, they will still enforce the requirements of their program, because they kind of feel that if you're in the program, you're in it, period. So that's a really good support network there. Okay. I mentioned that we offer that the 8-hour state-mandated course. It's for the tobacco awareness if the students are caught with tobacco or tobacco-related products. There's 4 of us in the team. Each of us teaches once during the year. It's into 4 sessions. That's how it's mandated. We teach from 4 to 6 at Leander High School on certain times of the year, and so if we can't meet their needs, then we refer out. There are other folks that are doing the 8 hours as well. Also, we do a lot with parents and teachers, having problems with their own use, somebody else's use. Do a lot of education with parents, especially when they're struggling with what's going on with their child. So I'm a resource for them, and that's really nice because anything that goes on in the district is free. So some of them are really strapped financially, and they really appreciate, even if it's only a couple of sessions, even do some family work about the drug use as well. So we try to be there on all different fronts for the family. Okay, a couple other things, pieces of the program that I work on are, we have 10 ethical principles in Leander: honesty, integrity, pursuit of excellence, law abiding, civic duty, all that kind of thing. So I take one of those principles each month, and then have 2 developmental assets, and then I have 1 prevention topic, either bullying, drugs and alcohol, truancy, or healthy living. And I send out packets to our teachers with lessons that they can use in the classroom, journal prompts, discussion questions, team building activities. In the past, I've even had recommended readings that they can use with their students, PA announcements, and teachers will use some of that in their classroom to continue on with what we're doing and as a way of collaborating. And then we have parent news information that goes on our website. We do have a chemical abuse prevention website for the district, and we post this information every month as well there. And I think in your packets, because I haven't flipped through mine thoroughly yet, you should have some information about healthteacher.com, which has some great classroom lessons. They have parent news, they have articles, research-based things. Sue?
They're in the expo.
Oh, they're in the expo. Okay, great. Cool. And Anastasia Eckhart is the representative for healthteacher.com who has worked with me. And this year, what I'm trying to do in those monthly packets is use the healthteacher.com lessons, and then bring in all sorts of different subjects and then see how we can attach it to one of the 4 topics. And it's quite interesting how we're really creative in some of our lessons there, because that's a lot of work putting that packet together. And I've been doing that for 8 or 9 years. But it's a great resource too for our teachers. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about classroom integration. Sometimes I just have to help folks to see how can we pull this all together, and so I try to give examples of how do we do that. Well, in science, it's real simple. Alcohol and drugs affect just about every system in our body, and so you can look at that. Look at the brain. And the research that's going on with the brain these days is, it's so incredible. With drugs and alcohol alone, what we're seeing is the brain maps how you are feeling related to your drug or alcohol use. So let's say your grandpa, found out that you stole a cigarette and he made you smoke the whole pack and you got sick as a dog, remember? And, your brain mapped that. Tobacco, not good, and so it's a bad experience. But then it also maps if it was a good experience. And a lot of students who I work with say, woo, that first time, it was fun, this is great, woohoo. And so it's mapping that. Alcohol, good, yay, fun. So it may start as a solution or it may start as something fun, and that's the number 1 reason kids use today is fun. Number 2 is stress. So we kind of look at all that as well. But it's really interesting research that's going on with your brain. So in health, you can touch it about anything. Leadership, all about making good decisions and choices. Math, I've had some of my teachers, send me lessons about blood alcohol content, or just how much is this going to cost you overall for cigarettes if you're going to smoke for 20 years, and that kind of thing. So they do all sorts of different exercises there. History, I always do prohibition. That's really interesting. Or being in grad school, I learned something new this year. Back in the 20s, the tobacco companies were concerned because women weren't allowed to smoke in public. Men, you could smoke in public and that was fine, but women had to stay behind closed doors and smoke in the house, and nobody was supposed to know about it. Well, the tobacco companies knew that women were smoking and they wanted more smokers. So they hooked up with somebody in public relations by the name of Edward Bernays, who happened to be Sigmund Freud's American nephew. More information probably than you want to know, but you know, it was propaganda over there, but when it came to the United States, they said, oh, we'll rename this, we'll call it public relations. And so they figured out there was an Easter parade going on. Edward Bernays contacted a bunch of debutantes. And so during the parade, they had their cigarettes in their garters, and on cue, they all pulled them out, lit them up, and then they had some signs that said "Torches of Freedom." So here we are. So men, you think you have all the freedom, we do too, and this is our, you know, way of being. And it was planned that way. You know, marketing, great thing. And so, of course, the numbers of women smokers went right through the roof, you know. So it's amazing what goes on with marketing and advertising and all. So we do a lot of education with that as well. And in the packets, I try to focus some on that. Because we know if we tell kids don't do it, what are they going to do? Do it? You know, so let's rebel against, you know, maybe the tobacco companies making so much money on you versus, you know, rebelling against some other things that might be more healthy for you to do. Okay, so then other things, of course, Quest, senior projects, you can research things. In the district, they have their, our seniors have a language arts project, research project, and so sometimes I get asked to be interviewed for their expert part of that, and that's just really fun to see what the kids are learning about alcohol and tobacco and other drugs. It really is amazing. Debate, all sorts of good things, you know, because shoot, they're moving into Austin, trying to get us, since we're so liberal, to think about legalizing marijuana, and so the kids are really excited about that, you know. And I'm like, okay, yeah. I have a friend in grad school who lives in Colorado, and she said it is a nightmare since it's been legalized. So, all right. So lots of parent and staff and community education goes on. We work with our PTAs. We have February conference, which are 3 days of staff development. We offer a drug trends for our teachers there to just kind of get them into what is going on. Last couple of years, we've been focusing on music and music videos and what that influence is. Because if you listen to some of these songs, you'd be amazed at what they're saying. And if you watch some of their videos, same thing. And you know, the kids they like the beat, you know, and it's really cool music and all that. And sometimes we're not listening to the words. But it's just like when we were younger, you know, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. It's the same, really hadn't changed that much. And so do some education just to say, okay, are you hearing what's going on with your kids? And a lot of parents are amazed. So, and we are too, you know, as well. So drug trends, signs and symptoms, prevention, intervention things. Our school community relations puts on a Connecting You community conference, and we speak there on different topics. I try to get in and educate whenever I can, and it's so funny. I teach a 7-week Becoming a Love and Logic parenting series, and I do that usually twice during the school year. And I just finished up last night. I offer the class in the morning, 10 to 12, and then again 6 to 8 in the evening. And when I introduce myself as the facilitator for the course, you know, and I say my title, you know, Mary Ann Kliga, Substance Abuse Prevention Coordinator, are we going to be talking about drugs? I said, well, yes and no. That's not the whole focus, but anything you can do to become a better parent is going to help you to help your children resist using themselves. So, I mentioned parent meetings earlier too. Sometimes parents just need to come in and chat about what's going on. So we offer that. My team out at the campuses, they do a lot of that with the teachers as well. Expulsion hearings, this is where we start looking at collaboration. Our students are placed at Leo for a drug and alcohol related offense, but if they have a second offense, then they are expelled to Leo or to the JJEP. And so we're in that as well to kind of ask the right questions, or I'm in that. And so just kind of seeing what's going on, because it's amazing how different the story can be. And you can kind of listen to it, oh yeah, that makes sense. And then I'll pop a couple of questions nice and calmly, and, you know, kind of catch them in the lie, you know, and it's like, days, you know. But so we try to work together on that, again, to be proactive so that the students can get the help that they need in there. Our Student Support Services does drug dog searches throughout the school year at our secondary campuses, and so that's another way that we kind of get connected and work proactively. I mentioned it earlier, we do a lot of community and parent education, and just what's going on in there. This year we started putting little parenting snips on Facebook and Twitter, things that you can do with your child, things that are positive, the developmental assets, all that on Facebook and Twitter too, and just getting the conversation going. Just want people to be talking about what's going on. And we have a ropes course, challenge course. I happen to office with Greg Glover, who is our ropes coordinator, and we do a lot of activities with our students, climbing the poles and jumping off, and all those kind of, challenge by choice things. We have a family services team who has 4 social workers in the district, and they really focus more on the mental health, but we work together a lot, and we try not to duplicate services, so they'll often do just 6 or 8 sessions, and so we say, you guys go for it and do the beginning. We'll come in after because we can go a little bit longer than they can, because they get about 400 to 450 referrals a year, so we're kind of trying to spread it all out. Crime Stoppers, the expulsion hearing I was in yesterday, it happened to be a tip from a parent, and we get tips from students on Crime Stoppers too about what might be going on at school, using it in the bathroom, deals in the bathroom, all sorts of other things like that. Then we have Watchdogs at our elementary school, which is really dads just kind of going and spending the day at their child's school and helping out with other students as well. And then at Vista Ridge High School, they have a program named SAFE, where the high school parents are involved. They have this jacket that they wear, and they have a walkie-talkie, and they walk around campus, and they're really kind of looking for what is going on the campus, and then they can walkie-talkie to the APs, and just another safety kind of measure to help that safe school idea. The legislature has mandated that every school district have a school health advisory council. I'm on that team, and there's 8 components for coordinated school health, and we are in about 5 of them: health services, health education, parent community involvement, staff wellness promotion, and counseling and mental health services, and healthy and safe school. I think that's 6. Yeah, 6 out of the 8, we're involved in. So we have parent involvement, community involvement in that committee, and we kind of look at what are we doing with alcohol, tobacco, and other drugs. We have a subcommittee for the 40 developmental assets to how we can spread that out in the district more as well. And then there's student leadership opportunities. We know that kids will do better when they are involved in extracurricular activities. The less unsupervised time, the better. And so all sorts of opportunities, different schools. These are just a couple. All but one of our secondary campuses has a drug-free clubs, and the one is just trying to find the sponsor to get it going again. But they do all sorts of activities. They bring skits down to the elementary school because the kids listen to them. They're just a couple years older, and they're oh, you're so wonderful. You're the whatever quarterback or whatever athlete, and they just think it's great. So they do a lot of that, which is really cool. We have some student wellness teams at some of our campuses, and one of the things that they're doing is this Fuel Up to Play 60. It's all about eating nutritiously and healthily, and then being active for 60 minutes. I think it's for 60 minutes in the week. I'm not sure. But we have those. Then we have a group called C Squared, which is our anti-bullying prevention group of kids. One of the assistant principals at Leander High School was challenged, well, all the assistant principals were challenged to, look at some of the problems on your campuses and then what can you do about them. And so this one assistant principal was looking at bullying and racism and prejudice and all that. She got all the leaders of the clubs together one day, and she asked me to come and present about bullying with the students. And then what they did is decide what they were going to do. So they chose bullying, and they wanted to create a culture of caring and kindness. And it's really kind of interesting how it happened, because since I'd been doing some of the bullying prevention efforts in the district, I had kind of been shifting my focus from the bullying piece of it and going to, we need to create this culture of caring, kindness, and helping each other. And it kind of all came at the same time. It's like that 100 monkey thing, where all the monkeys, after you get 100 monkeys on one island doing whatever, it'll start somewhere else. And that monkey didn't move, you know. And so we kind of saw this coming, and so it has just blossomed. It's called the Smiley Face Club. Their icon is the smiley face, yellow t-shirt with a black smiley face on it, and they have two forums a year where they bring in the students, and we just had one last Friday, and over 500 students showed up with the teachers and the sponsors of the club, and they brainstorm what they can do on the campuses to change the culture. And it's really amazing. This all started a couple of years ago when we had some real tragic events in Leander, at Leander High School. We had a beloved teacher die, we had a young woman commit suicide on campus, and then we had a student who had been terminally ill for several years who was loved by many die. And so it was amazing how this group of kids, which started as a handful of like 11 students, it blossomed into 200 within a couple of months, and it changed how the school dealt with all these crises. It was really amazing in there, and it's just amazing. And this is student-led change. They're doing it. The adults are there to support and help, but they're changing the environment, and when they have that buy-in, it's amazing what goes on. And then of course we have PALS and peer tutoring and that kind of thing as well. So I mentioned that we did the school survey of drug and alcohol use. We use that data to help us with our needs assessment. Every 2 years is when we do it. This year they decided they were going to charge us. They didn't tell me that when I was doing my budget, so we're not doing it this year. But there are other free indexes. I've been talking with Life Steps, and we're going to do the Texas Prevention Impact Index and get our data that way. As well. And poor A&M, they're just like, oh yeah, we know, we just have to now. So everybody's kind of tight. It's great though when you get the data and you can get the statewide data and show that things are changing through the state as well as in Leander ISD. And that's how I present all this information to the board. And I have a spreadsheet if you're interested. Our Chemical Abuse Prevention Program website has the spreadsheet for the past, I think 8 to 10 years of what the percentages were for certain drugs in there. And we use that to validate what we're doing, to change what we're doing, to enhance whatever we're doing as well. Mentioning media, I just think this is interesting, and I show this to parents all the time. In a given week, children spend 30 minutes with their father, 2 hours with their mother, 4 hours doing homework, 20 hours of TV, 7 hours of computer unrelated to school, and 9 hours of video games. That's a lot of time away. And we know that most of our kids spend more time with us at school than they actually do with their parents at home. And so we try to really impact that as well as we can. Some of the things that we talk about with media, with the students, is how is media influencing you and your decisions? They're not. Oh, yes, they are, you know, and so kind of asking some of those questions to kind of see what really is going on with them. And of course, you know, you have lots of myths. It'll never happen to me. I'm never going to get caught. Everything's okay. I'm actually smarter this way, Ms. Kluge. You know, I can focus and concentrate better. You know, get a lot of students ADD and ADHD diagnoses. They don't like their medication. They like marijuana, though, you know, and it helps me in school. Until it doesn't, you know? And then it's like, okay, you know, tell me that in a couple of years. And why don't you be off of it for 30 to 60 days and just see if there's any changes? Well, why would I want to do that? I don't know, but, you know, it is illegal. You know, I don't know. Think about it. You know? So it is interesting. So we work on that. We try to focus the other side too, friends helping friends, you know, getting the other students to help. And several of my counselors get referrals from other students that are already being seen in individual and group. They'll say, I have a friend, you might need a little help. Can she or he come? Sure. You know, then we get the referral process going. Some environmental strategies, and we're working with Life Steps and a couple of the community coalitions. We're looking at, you know, more billboards, more PSAs, getting out there and looking at social host ordinances where, you know, if there's a party at your house and you're hosting it and you're serving alcohol, then what's going to happen to you as a parent, you know? There's going to be problems there. And so we try to educate our parents too, because they think that, you know, if I have the party and everybody's here, it'll be okay. No problem. I don't let anybody drive home. Okay, and there's lots of problems in that, so we get that education piece in as best we can. And then students in the area, and I know all of Williamson County is involved in some of the sting operations through the Alcoholic Beverage Commission. Some of the latest drug trends, just in case you wanted to know. Molly's are really popular. That's ecstasy and amphetamine and or other substances. So we've got them ramped up like the Energizer Bunny and hallucinating, you know, and it's just a great combination, you know. Prescription pills, really popular, easier to get than alcohol, the kids are saying. They take, you know, they'll go clean out not only the home medicine chest, but they'll go to yours, you know, when their friends' houses and clean them out too. Throw them in a bowl, take a handful with some alcohol. You know, I'm really surprised that we haven't had more deaths because of that. But that's why it's called farming, because it's pharmaceuticals in there. Anything to get away from, you know, how I'm feeling. Bath salts, you know, we know about those, and synthetic cocaine, K2, synthetic marijuana, salvia, another hallucinogenic. I was talking with a student yesterday about that, and he said, oh, it was a really kind of good trip for a while, Miss Kay, and then it was bad. I said, oh, okay. Are you going to use it again? No, not going to go there. PCP is back up there, you know, too. You know, so I talked to the kids about marijuana and how they know what's in it, you know. Huffing and inhalants, really popular with middle schools. It's cheap, it's easy, and it's quick high. E-cigarettes, they're using the e-cigarettes now with hash oil, and you know, using the vapor for that. And the interesting thing about that is, I was just reading last week, is you can't smell the marijuana when they use it in the e-cigarette. So you don't know what they're doing with that. So, and they have the nicotine in every flavor that you can imagine. And I've heard that cherry raspberry is really good. So, lots of different spices are out there. The latest thing I've heard about is kids using nutmeg to get high. And I'm like, you're kidding. Okay. And then this new one, it hasn't come around here, but in Russia, were 2 cases, I think it was Arizona. It's crocodile, which is, now why anybody would shoot this up into their body, I have no idea. Codeine, lighter fluid, gasoline, paint thinner, alcohol, and you know, we'll just throw in a couple other things. Actually eats your body from the inside out. Your skin becomes like a crocodile, really rugged, rough, and bumpy. And you have a life expectancy of about 2 years after using this. Is it big in Michigan? Okay. Yeah, I've only heard about it for Arizona, but yeah. It's like, why? Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't get it. So, interesting. So a couple of struggles and challenges that we have is time. You know, when I first came in on this, I was in a Safe Schools Healthy Students grant, and we had all sorts of money to put out there, but we could not get into the classrooms to do the 10 to the 12, you know, classroom lesson kind of things. That's when teachers teaching to the test, they don't think they can add anything else to their plate. You know, there's a lot of denial. You know, we don't see the problems, we don't want to see them, we're not aware of what would be a problem, and, you know, we don't even know that we're lying to ourselves about things. And that's just part of every chronic illness. Hypertension, diabetes, drugs and alcohol. Enabling, a lot of people are afraid that if I say something, I might be wrong. That's the fear piece. And then the enabling, I'm thinking I'm helping him by not saying anything and not doing anything. So those are some of the struggles, along with, you know, of course I said, you know, we have not increased our staff. We continue to ask, but the numbers have increased, you know, dramatically over the years. I send out those monthly packets with the information, but I never know how many people actually use them or any of the other resources that we have on our website. You know, we've been talking with the Mental Health Task Force just about some of the treatment providers that are going to start coming into our area so we can get some intensive outpatient and residential services in the area. Thank heavens, because we really need those. We do have a lot of counselors in the area, and treatment options, we don't have any. You know, and I don't know, I just kind of ask these questions. Are kids sicker than they used to be? You know, what is going on in there? You know, we want to, of course, you know, get on the same page and work together, and we just kind of really see we need to integrate even more. Funding, it was initially through the Safe Schools, Safe and Drug-Free Schools and Communities money for a portion of that first counselor, and then I came in on the Safe Schools grant, and then now it's all local funding from the school district. So, we know that different school districts have different needs, you know, and agencies have different needs, so there's a lot of information that we're doing, and it didn't start overnight. It's been a continual process, and we're continuing to assess what is needed and how we can do that with the staff that we have, and pulling other people in, our APs, counselors, SROs, et cetera, And so, you know, my question for you today is just this. What's one thing that you can do to begin to address teen substance abuse? If you want to get some more of our information, you have my contact information. I will share anything if you want to see what one of those packets is like. Glad to shoot it to you. If you want to go on our website, leanderisd.org, top left corner, parents and students, drop-down list, longest C in there, Chemical Abuse Prevention Program. I created a 14-minute, 15-minute parent video this summer with our technology department, and that's on it just as a resource for parents, just giving them some basic information. Feel free to look at that and see if that might be useful as well. Lots of good websites out there in the community as well. And then I said, you know, I gave you the names of all the videos that we use in our K-5 help. So I think I have about 2 minutes for questions. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
When we say volunteer random drug testing, if I'm a student at Leander ISD and I'm picked, do I volunteer or can I say no?
It's voluntary in that you have to sign up to be in the program. And then out of those students that are in the program, then the computer generates the list.
So if I don't want to participate, I don't participate.
If you don't want to participate, you don't participate. We did go to online consents this year. Last year I had about 1,900 new people. This year I had about 200 because it used to go home with the first day of school package, and parents just, they don't read it, they just sign. You know, and then they say, I never signed my kid up for this. Well, is this your signature? Oh, yeah. Okay. And I send out information at the beginning of every school year to remind them that they're in the program. But some of the students will come to drug test. I don't want to do this. Okay, well, that means that it's a positive test. This is per our policy, which is on our website as well. And that means you're going to have to come and see me with one of your parents for about 2 hours. What would you rather do? Would you rather take the test and spend 5 minutes now, or do you want to spend 2 hours with me? I'll take the test. You know, and then the parents will, I notify them, I send the results home to, you know, as well. Yes, sir?
What are your the techniques that you think are most effective in prevention for you personally?
For me personally, all of them. You know, humor's a good one, yeah. You know, it's a lot of it for me is meeting the kids where they are and kind of finding out what's going on, you know, really kind of having that relationship, having that connection, having a healthy adult, you know, that they can be with. But different kids, it's different things, you know, and at different ages and at different transition times, because we know they struggle between elementary to middle school to high school to college, divorces, relationship ending, and everything else. Okay, one more quick question.
So I just wanted to clarify, I have the same question as Mr. Price.
Okay.
Is voluntary means the parent can sign the student up?
Right.
So it's not necessarily the student, if the student comes and says no,
Right.
it's voluntary because it's the parents.
Right, well, oh, we had a bug in there. Right.
She just got it almost hit her.
Yeah. Oops. Yeah, it is. Okay, with our drug testing program previously, when the parents and students both had to sign up for the drug testing program, they had a form, they had to sign it up. Now we have it that the parent can sign the student up, but what I put on that consent is please talk to your student and tell them you're doing this. Please have that conversation, because it's really not fair to me that you did not have this conversation and this kiddo gets picked and then I'm the target. So I try to educate the parents on that too. Yeah. Okay, if you have other questions, feel free to email me or call me. Thank you so much.
One more. Would you please talk to the administrators in the room about the how it gets to be when an administrator says it was only smoking, it was only tobacco, so we're not going to turn them in?
By law, you're supposed to, you know, do that. I think in our video for the parents, and I have a video for our faculty as well that we created this summer, and I say if you start saying it's only or it's just, you have a problem. Because we know that there are gateway drugs, and it's alcohol, tobacco, marijuana, and now it's pills. And every addict that I've talked to over the years who's been hooked on crack, meth, heroin, whatever, I ask them, when you started smoking cigarettes or pot or whatever, did you ever think you would be shooting up in imaginable places in your body, and they all say no. Never did I think I would get there. And so what we want to do is prevent now so we don't have a harder problem later. Some kids can experiment with drugs and go off and be fine, but some cannot. And with addiction happening faster, we need to address it now so that we can help the kids. It's a much easier process. So, yes, thank you, Carla. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You condensed a lot of information. Condensed a lot of information into that short time frame. We really appreciate it.